I really can't believe we're already halfway through November, and we're already getting close to the end of 2025. This year has seen some incredible games, and Xbox Game Pass has certainly been no slouch in terms of its releases, its price hike aside. Today though, I wanted to cover 20 of the best games you can play right now on Xbox Game Pass this November. I do cover a list like this every single month though with some brand new games, so make sure to subscribe if you do enjoy it. With that though, let's just dive right into the best games you need to play right now in November 2025. First up, we have a very recent addition to the Xbox Game Pass library in Voidtrain, and for me, I kind of absolutely adore this co-op FPS adventure. The best way for me to describe this one is essentially Sea of Thieves, but then set in a weird void with you taking control of a train. There is no PvP in this one either, it's just you and your friends taking on the necessity of keeping your train going and taking on some quick, weird and wonderful enemies. For me, the story was actually pretty decent, as it does follow you, an engineer, as you try to locate a missing scientist for different reasons. I wouldn't spoil it, but you definitely get a solid single player game right out the gate with this one. The main highlight was just how you can upgrade your train in so many different ways and really customize it to be your very own. I love Voidtrain, and I feel this one will be a right hidden gem on Xbox Game Pass as time does go on. ReCore is certainly not the biggest name within the Xbox Game Pass library, but it definitely has one of the biggest hearts. This one is set in a sun-scorched desert world where you play as Jewel, a lone scavenger trying to piece together a broken planet with the help of your robotic companions. It's got a little bit of everything here, from fast-paced combat, light platforming, dungeon crawling, and even clever puzzle solving. The best part though is your bot allies, to be honest. They're not just sidekicks like you kind of expect in games like this, instead they're actually part of the world's mechanics, so each of them have their own unique abilities to help you explore and fight in different ways. The color-coded weapon system also adds a layer of strategy to the combat, and the environments are packed with secrets that really do reward your curiosity. While it did have a rocky launch back in the day, and I have to say I really did experience that firsthand, the definitive edition has smoothed out the entire experience and really made it into something special. I came for the robots in this one, but I stayed for the world and the vibe, and I even went out my way to grab the collector's edition as I love this one. It deserves way more attention than it ever got, and it's certainly worth playing on Xbox Game Pass. Now, Halo Wars 2 brought real-time strategy action to the legendary Halo universe, and it offered us some very fast-paced, large-scale battles that are both accessible to newcomers and deep enough for RTS veterans. I wanted to specifically highlight the second entry though compared to the first, as I did prefer seeing more of the Banished, and visually it's way more stunning. You'll be commanding stuff like armies of Spartans, Warthogs and Scorpion tanks against the formidable Banished forces in an exhilarating experience. For me, the game's campaign is a real highlight, as it's filled with so many different cinematic storytelling moments, and it expands the lore of the entire Halo series. You also get some great multiplayer modes as well, which add some competitive edge to the experience with various different strategies and unit compositions. They even introduced a brand new mode called Blitz mode, which did shake things up, where they sort of introduced a card-based tactical system, which was way more dynamic in terms of the RTS genre. Whether you're playing this one solo, online, or if you just want to play in co-op, Halo Wars 2 is a fantastic RTS experience. As a shadow drop onto Xbox Game Pass, I believe over the past month now, I just had to mention Pacific Drive in this list today, and I'm absolutely loving my time with this game, and I'm just about to wrap up the completion myself. It's not a horror game in the traditional sense, as there's very little in way of scares here, but it's similar to games like Little Nightmares, so it really does emphasize a sort of eerie dread and atmosphere that keeps you moving. It is a roguelike experience though, and you do have to do anything possible to basically keep that calm maintained as you explore more of that Olympic exclusion zone. Don't take my word for it though, as the game has received so many incredible reviews over the past couple of years on every single platform. If this one hasn't been on your radar yet, put it firmly there, as it's definitely worth checking out as soon as possible. Double Fine has to be one of my favourite Xbox-owned studios, and that's because Brutal Legend and Psychonauts are just such incredible IPs that need to be experienced by every single gamer. I was very intrigued in this instance when Keeper was revealed back at the Xbox Game Showcase earlier this year, and I'm kind of taken back by their signature Double Fine weirdness yet again. This one actually comes from the Double Fine B team, so it's not designed by Tim Schafer himself, so I was a little bit apprehensive for sure prior to release. Honestly though, I have no idea why I was ever worrying about this game, as it's just Double Fine in its purest form. The fact you're taking control of a sentient lighthouse and navigating a strange island with your bird companion was so weird in itself, but add in the twists and turns that it takes you down and your mind will really be blown here. The art direction is stunning, the audio design is perfect, and this is an indie gem that just needs to be played before this year ends. Mirror's Edge Catalyst is a parkour-powered rush through a sleek dystopian future where style really does meet rebellion. This is actually the second game in the highly underrated series, and I do recommend you try both of them out if you have never experienced these games before. In this game though, you play as Faith, a courier in the City of Glass, where surveillance is constant and freedom comes in the form of flawless movement across rooftops and skyscrapers. This second entry actually expands on the original concept into an open world structure, letting you explore the city while mastering your flow. Combat has never been at the forefront of the Mirror's Edge games, so you can expect very light melee combat and also shooting mechanics, but it's the parkour which sets it apart from most of its contemporaries. This one did kind of fall short as it was stuck in limbo for quite a while, but is a great example of a unique and cool game that we really did get from EA. There's something about Dragon Age Inquisition that keeps pulling me back time and time again, even though it came out over 10 years ago now. Maybe it's the way that your decisions shape the world, or maybe it's just how brilliantly written the characters actually are, and it's something completely different and better in every single way than Dragon Age the Veilguard. In this one, you'll play as the Inquisitor, and you're basically tasked with saving the world on the brink of destruction, and every choice does matter here. Personally, I became too attached to characters like Iron Bull and Cassandra, and there's a ton of depth here. Trust me, you'll feel the same way upon meeting these characters, as it's so bloody well written. The game's tactical combat system is one of my favourite features as well, as you can essentially slow time down, plan your different moves, and then execute your strategy pretty flawlessly. It's a fantasy lover's dream with dragons, epic battles, and just the right amount of political intrigue. If you're into storytelling or just want to see BioWare at their very best, then this one is a must play. Gears Tactics actually took the brutal cover-based combat of Gears of War and then reimagined it in a turn-based strategy game which none of us really expected, but they perfected the formula to a T. If you love games like the XCOM series but want something faster and way more aggressive, then this game really delivers. It is set 12 years before the first Gears of War, which is great to see, and the game actually follows a squad of elite soldiers as they take on locust threats in intense tactical battles. The fast-paced tactical combat though keeps you constantly engaged, and the signature executions add such a satisfying sort of action-packed twist to the genre. You get such a gripping campaign with this one with such a thrilling narrative-driven experience. You have loads of large-scale battles, powerful enemy bosses, and such rewarding tactical depth. Gears Tactics to me really proved that strategy games can be just as intense as their action-packed counterparts, and they did a real fantastic job with this brand new IP. Imagine Slay the Spire, but you're on a literal hellbound train under siege, and your cards summon different monsters instead of spells. Monster Train 2 really did build on the original's deck-building brilliance, and it added way more factions, card synergies, and loads more of tactical layers. Each carriage of the train is a real battlefield, and deciding which fort to defend or abandon is just as important as the cards you play. Runs in this one also feel endlessly replayable, and that's thanks to the sheer variety of different combinations and ultimate strategies. The game obviously rewards both your calculated planning and risky improvisation, making every battle feel so unique. What I love most is just the escalation of every single battle. Fights will really start small, but by the final battle your train is a chaotic fortress full of demons, spells, and improbable plays. Monster Train 2 is proof that a great roguelike doesn't just test your deck, it tests your adaptability and creativity under different pressure. Moving Out 2 turned the mundane task of furniture relocation into a chaotic sort of laugh-out-loud multiplayer adventure. This one though is designed for up to 4 players, so it's great for this holiday season, and is essentially a couch co-op game that encourages teamwork, though more often than not is teamwork gone hilariously wrong. With new levels set in a zany alternative dimension, the sequel really did expand on the first game's creativity, and it introduced even more wilder obstacles and so many more challenges. Online multiplayer has also been added for the very first time, as it wasn't in the first entry, and it makes it easier to team up with your friends as well, which is just great to see. It has a very charming art style and such a great upbeat soundtrack that keeps their energy high, and the accessibility options here ensures that everyone can really enjoy this one. Whether you're racing through the clock or just embracing the chaos, Moving Out 2 really is the ultimate party game, especially for this holiday season. One of 2025's biggest gaming shocks for me personally just had to be Ninja Gaiden 4, and I know that quite a few of you who tune into this channel pretty regularly have been having a great time with this one, even though it did move away from our beloved Ryu. Platinum Games, Team Ninja and Xbox all came together and made the sequel into one of the most ambitious entries we've ever seen. In this new entry though, you step into the role of Yakumo, who's a young ninja prodigy, whilst the iconic characters from past games do of course make their return at time to time. This time though, the story did unfold in a reimagined Tokyo, where it blends ancient tradition with futuristic spectacle. For me, the combat is the real highlight overall, and I don't think I've ever seen combat this good in a game over the past decade, and the story is something that was pretty average, but going by previous Ninja Gaiden games, I know that story is not what you really dive into for these games. Still, it was a fantastic experience. You can check out my review here on the channel, and I recommend you dive into it as soon as possible. There really was something just so therapeutic about PowerWash Simulator 2, and it's even better than the first game in so many ways that I never expected. Instead of just giving you more objects to blast clean, it becomes the oddly immersive escape where every job feels like a mini story, and the additions they added here were just so bloody welcome. One moment you're restoring a filthy old campsite, and then next you'll be working through some bizarre, almost puzzle-like grind patterns in these sort of staged levels. I love how the upgraded tools make cleaning feel faster and more precise, and you can actually customize your gear so much more this time, and you even get a home base to customize to make your own. It's very calm, it's weirdly motivating, and it's the perfect game you just want to zone out to and listen to your favorite podcast. Atomfall garnered such a great reception at its launch and was a great alternative game brought to us from the same minds behind the Sniper Elite series. Rebellion brought us a very unique first-person RPG set in a nuclear wasteland of England, and simply put, it was a welcome change and is so unique within its structure and also its storytelling. Diving a little bit deeper on this aspect, there's no hand-holding or very little. The story is so dependent on finding notes, journals, audio recordings and so much more, or just coming across someone or just something within the environment. It really promotes exploration and planning, and does it so incredibly well, which is a welcome change to this genre. There are also 6 endings to this game, which is so totally wild, and I do highly recommend that you actually try out each of them, as they do vary up the plot and what happens in its entirety. It has received some fantastic DLC since its launch as well, so I recommend picking those up, especially if you dive into this one. I wanted to highlight one of the largest games of this year so far, and that just has to be the mammoth release of the Oblivion Remastered, and somehow it kind of just fell off the radar, or many just forgot it actually came out this year. This is actually one of the best remasters that we've ever seen within the gaming sphere, and the fact they did not classify this one as a remake is still pretty baffling to me. We saw everything here from a major graphical overhaul, changes to some mechanics to bring the game up to modern day standards, but then still keeping the quirks, bugs and everything else we loved intact, and it was honestly just been astonishing to see what Virtua Studios have really achieved with this one. I know there are still some performance issues across the board, especially within PC version, but on Xbox it does seem to be in a better place for now. Still is a Bethesda game at its heart, so I'm not surprised it's buggy, but then again, it's just such a joy to play through. Microsoft's acquisition of Activision really did pay off in a very big way for all of its Xbox Game Pass fans. We're still missing a lot of Call of Duty titles, of course, and a few different Blizzard games, but we did actually receive Crash Bandicoot 4 as it joined the lineup, and it was a fantastic addition. This one easily was one of the standout platformers of recent years. If you've never actually stepped into the chaotic world of Crash before, then you're in for a real treat with this one. The story kicks off with Neo-Cortex and Entropy once again unleashing havoc, but this time they're threatening the entire universe. You'll then switch between Crash and Coco this time as you hunt down 4 quantum masks to patch reality back together. The gameplay feels incredibly polished here for a Crash game, so you've got loads of responsive controls, tons of content, and a satisfying campaign that never drags out. Honestly, for me, this is a real highlight for the Crash Bandicoot franchise, and I can't wait to see what comes next in this series. I feel like Deathloop sometimes gets a little forgotten about, especially as it was a Game of the Year contender a few years back now. This one though drops you into pure madness, hands you a weapon, and then expects you to make some sense of the entire mess, and that's exactly what makes it just so bloody compelling. You're essentially trapped in a repeating day, and you're tasked with eliminating 8 key targets before that cycle resets. If you charge in with guns blazing, it rarely works, and the real challenge though lies in studying different routines, experimenting with the different approaches, and then piecing together the entire mystery. Every screw up does reveal some brand new information though, so you never feel really hard done by, especially if you die. The voice performances are incredibly sharp here as well, and Black Reef has this sort of bizarre 60s espionage sort of vibe that really sets it apart from most other contemporaries within this genre. The developers managed to blend fast-paced action with thoughtful problem solving in a way that never breaks momentum, even though the AI are still a little bit stupid. If you like games that push you to strategize on the fly, then this one absolutely shines. Neon White was one game that completely exceeded my expectations on Xbox Game Pass. At first glance, it looks like a flashy sort of anime-styled shooter, but once you start playing it, it instead transforms into a ridiculously addictive mix of platforming, speedrunning, and also puzzle solving. Every level is essentially a race against the clock, forcing you to chain jumps, shots, wall runs, and clever card-based abilities to get the fastest time seemingly possible. I caught myself replaying these levels just over and over just to trim a fraction of a second of my best time, and it never stopped being fun for countless hours. The movement feels so silky smooth, the soundtrack goes incredibly hard, and it has to be one of my favourite soundtracks to this day, and pulling off a perfect sequence is unbelievably satisfying. If you love games that reward your finesse and experimentation, Neon White is an instant obsession and such a great indie gem. Now, this one is a seriously great time for fans of action roguelikes. Sworn recently joined the Xbox Game Pass library, and it's a 1 to 4 player co-op adventure where you and your friends will step into a dark reimagining of Camelot itself. The once proud kingdom has essentially fallen under the reign of a corrupted King Arthur and his twisted knights on a round table, and it's basically up to you to reclaim it all. What makes Sworn so fun though is just the way that your character's powers can be combined in some surprising ways, letting you master new abilities and build powerful synergies to take on different overwhelming foes. With each run feeling fresh and full of challenge, you'll need teamwork, strategy, and skill to survive as long as possible to confront Arthur himself. It has seen some fantastic feedback and reviews since its launch onto Xbox Game Pass, and I can confirm this is another indie banger you need to play. Expeditions, a Mudrunner game, is such a unique blend of exploration, strategy, and vehicular simulation. Unlike traditional driving games, this one actually challenges you to navigate rugged off-road environments where every decision matters. You'll be scouting terrain, planning routes, and managing resources as you tackle loads of treacherous conditions from muddy forests to icy mountains. The gameplay, from what you're seeing on screen now, isn't just about driving. It is about problem solving and making sure you get to every location without suffering. How do you get a heavy truck across a washed out bridge? What's the best way to distribute your fuel for a multi-day trek? It's a sort of slow and methodical experience that does reward your patience and your planning. The co-op mode also lets you tackle different challenges with friends and adds such a great layer of teamwork to the entire mix. This one for me was such a great experience and a great change to all the high-speed races that we currently have on Xbox Game Pass. I also wanted to highlight probably one of my favourite indie games that actually launched this year, and it was such a surprise hit that's actually sold just under 500,000 copies at this moment of this video. That game in question is Ball X Pit, and this is a fantastic roguelike that you need to play from Annapurna Interactive. Basically, you dive underground into sort of these different caverns fighting different waves of enemies and different miniature bosses until that final boss fight. You do this by basically shooting balls off of walls and shooting them at the different enemies that are coming towards you. With that, you get different power-ups, you get to fuse those items together, and so much more, and just such a fantastic and addictive time, and I can't really explain into words how many hours I've actually put into this one now. For me, it was a real highlight of this year, and I feel like it's one indie game that you shouldn't put off simply due to that art style and just how it looks on screen. You may dive into this one thinking it's pretty basic, but then you'll be overwhelmed by it, and then you'll be sinking way over 100 hours into this one experience alone. Do trust me though, this one has a real shout of being one of the best indie games that we've seen in the entirety of 2025, and somehow it just all works, especially as you have some city building mechanics as well above ground, and then you have all of those sort of roguelike mechanics underground as well. This one was such a surprise, and is probably one on its entire list that I recommend above every other game. Are there any that you heavily recommend to anyone within our audience? You'll have to let me know in the comments section below. Remember to smash that like button if you enjoy videos like this, and do subscribe for more Xbox content every single day. Whilst here though, and if you want to check out some more awesome Xbox content here on the channel, why don't you check out the video on screen now. I recently covered all of the Xbox news and updates over the past week, which I do on a weekly basis, and there's some big hitters here you definitely don't want to miss.